Right before Christmas, I got a text from my brother that just said, "Don't show up unless you've done something useful." That same afternoon, my parents called and asked if I could help cover his loan. I sent over a single penny with a note that read, "Good luck, champ." About a week later, Marcus sent me an invite to what he called a peace dinner. He said something about how families supposed to stick together. When I arrived, they were all seated, eyes tracking me as I walked in and set my bag down. Just earlier that week, I'd gotten a call from the bank. They informed me I'd been listed as a co-signer on a six-figure loan tied to Marcus' shiny new house. I didn't say a word. I just pulled out a folder, slid it across the dinner table and said, "Figured you'd want a copy." I remember staring at that original message of his for a solid minute, trying to wrap my head around it. Just 10 words long, but it hit like a backhand. No, hey, no explanation. Just a passive-aggressive order disguised as brotherly concern. And as I was still chuckling in disbelief over that message, my phone buzzed again. This time it was from Mom. I didn't even have to open it to feel the pressure settle in my chest. I recognized that tone from a mile away. The "we need to talk" tone. The get ready to be guilt-tripped tone. When I finally looked, it read, "Sweetheart, your brother's mortgage payment is due. He's stressed. Can you help just for this month? Just until he's back on his feet." I leaned back in my chair and stared at the cold coffee sitting in front of me. Here we were again. Marcus, golden child, master of evasion, Houdini of accountability, had found himself in a mess. And once again, I was expected to clean it up. He'd bought that house barely 2 months ago. Loud, overdone, way beyond anything his paycheck could justify. I knew it. Our parents knew it. Hell, Marcus knew it too. But he wanted to flaunt it, to act like he was outpacing me somehow. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and scrolled to a side account I kept labeled emergency fund. Instead of sending the $2,100 they were clearly nudging me for, I wired over exactly 1 cent. With a message attached, "Good luck, champ." And the silence that followed? That was the best part. No phone calls. No angry follow-ups. Just complete, satisfying quiet. Until the following week. That's when Marcus extended the olive branch, inviting me to what he dubbed a peace dinner. Claimed he wanted to clear the air before the holidays. He said family should be united. My parents parroted the same line. Mom even pulled out her favorite. "Forgiveness is the true gift of the season." I didn't answer him right away. I needed to see how far they'd take this little performance. So I went. The house looked like it had overdosed on Christmas. Lights everywhere. Candles burning. Platters full of food. They were all seated when I walked in, holding my old leather satchel, the one I never bring to family events. Marcus opened the door himself. "Hey man, glad you came," he beamed, like he'd already written the ending to some feel-good family reunion episode. We sat down. Made some small talk. Traded a few forced smiles. At some point, Dad tapped his glass and made a speech about unity and togetherness. I waited. Then, right as the turkey landed on the table, I reached into my bag, pulled out a thick cream-colored folder, and laid it on the table. No words, just a simple, "Figured you'd want a copy." Everyone looked at it like it might detonate. It didn't. But the contents? That was another story entirely. I didn't need to say what it was. The bold logo from the bank's fraud division on the first page did the talking for me. Right there, my signature. Except it wasn't mine. It was tied to a 6-figure mortgage I never applied for. And the address on the loan? Marcus' brand new home. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Marcus twins, who never sat still, suddenly froze. My dad reached for his glasses, hands slightly shaking, and opened the folder like he wasn't already aware of what was inside. Marcus' confident grin faded in an instant. "Wait, what is this?" "Oh, I think you know," I said, voice calm and steady. My mother gasped as her eyes skimmed over the pages. "This has to be a mistake. There's no way." "Marcus, tell him this isn't." But Marcus didn't say a thing. He just kept staring, eyes blinking like he was hoping the words would magically rearrange into something else. "This is a formal notice from the bank," I said. "Apparently, I co-signed your mortgage. Only I didn't." Dad looked up, brows furrowed. "That can't be." You must have signed something. Maybe you just forgot. I laughed. Forgot? Forgot applying for a mortgage I didn't need? Forgot signing up for a six-figure debt on a house I've never even stayed in. Then I looked straight at Marcus. Let me guess, you used one of those old power of attorney forms Mom had me sign back when she had surgery. The one that was supposed to be temporary. The one you somehow got a hold of. Marcus opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. It was supposed to be temporary. I needed help qualifying. The bank was being difficult. And you figured I wouldn't notice? I asked, eyes narrowed. He leaned forward, voice shaky now. I was gonna fix it. I just needed to get approved. Once I refinanced, it was all gonna be in my name. I swear. My signature was used on legal documents without my permission, I said flatly. That's when Dad slammed his palm on the table. The sound echoed through the room. Enough. Both of you. It's Christmas, for God's sake. I don't care what this is, we're not doing this now. Right? I said. Because we never talk about it. Not here. Not ever. We never bring up how Marcus has been draining me dry since we were teenagers. We never talk about how I'm painted as the bad guy for not funding every reckless thing he decides to do. Mom's lips started to tremble. That's not fair, she whispered. Isn't it, though? I fired back, not missing a beat. Let me jog your memory. I started counting them off on my fingers. Freshman year of college, I dropped out. Because you all asked me to help Marcus pay off his car loan, after he totaled the one you bought him. 2 years later, I co-signed for his community college tuition. He quit after one semester, and guess who got stuck paying the bill? Then there was the time he got kicked out of his apartment. Who covered the deposit for the new place? That'd be me. Who gave him a job at their own company? Also me. And what did he do? Help himself to petty cash like it was his personal ATM. Dad looked like he was about to chime in, but I wasn't finished. I steamrolled right through. And all along, you two kept saying the same tired thing. He's your brother. Be patient. He's still figuring things out. Well, let me ask you, he's 34 now. How much longer is this figuring it out phase supposed to last? And why the hell does it always cost me money? That's when Marcus snapped. His voice cracked, rising just enough to sound both angry and cornered. You act like you're perfect. Like you've always been better than everyone just 'cause you've got your life together. Just because you didn't mess up like the rest of us. I turned to him slowly. I don't think I'm better, Marcus. I just stopped expecting other people to pick up the pieces after me. That's the difference. You don't get it, he hissed. You've never had to prove yourself the way I do. I needed this house. I needed people to see I could actually do something. I tilted my head. What you did may legally qualify as fraud. No. He ran his hand through his hair, pacing in place. It's not like that. I wasn't trying to screw you over. Mom reached across the table, her hand brushing mine gently. Her voice was soft. Measured. We can fix this. Let's not ruin the holidays, sweetheart. I let out a bitter laugh. The holiday was over the second you all sat around this table acting like nothing happened. Like Marcus hadn't told me not to show up unless I was useful. Like you didn't come begging for money 2 hours later. Dad's jaw locked, a muscle twitching near his temple. He didn't mean it that way, he said. He was under pressure. He's been stressed. Oh, he meant exactly what he said, I replied. And I meant it too, when I sent him that 1 cent. I stood up and faced Marcus. You have 30 days to get my name off that loan. I've already contacted a lawyer and spoken to the bank. If you don't handle this, I will. And once I do, it's going to be official and legal. I grabbed the folder, slid it back into my satchel, and headed for the front door. Nobody moved. Not a word. And just like that, my version of Christmas came to an early end. I didn't think it would spiral like that. Honestly, I thought I could walk away and let the silence hang over them. Let them sit in it. Maybe feel a little guilt, if they had any. But when you grow up in a family like mine, you learn the cycles. You know what's coming next. 2 days later, the calls started rolling in. Mom was first. Sweetheart, can we talk? Your brother's going through a lot right now. Then came Dad. Son, I think it's time we sat down like men and talked this through. And then Marcus, in all his dramatic glory. He didn't just text, he sent a full-on video message. Sitting in his half-decorated living room, fake tears welling up, swirling a glass of wine like he was auditioning for a role in a holiday tragedy. Look, man, I messed up. I panicked. I knew you'd say no if I asked, and the bank was breathing down my neck. I didn't know what else to do. But I'm still your brother. You're really going to report me over this? I stared at my phone in disbelief. A mistake? Filling out an entire mortgage application under someone else's name and forging a signature isn't something you do by accident. Dragging your own family member into 6 figures of debt? That doesn't happen by accident either. This was Marcus doing what he always did, playing the misunderstood dreamer. The guy who meant well but never quite followed through. And somehow, people always gave him a pass. Except me. Not anymore. So I recorded my own video reply. No drama. No frills. Just the facts. My report to the bank is already filed. A formal investigation has been opened. I've submitted handwriting samples, documentation, and a full email trail. You now have 10 days to remove my name from the loan. After that, I escalate. No more metaphors. No more chats. Just consequences. And that's when things really took a turn. The very next evening, there was loud banging at my door. I hadn't even shut off the TV yet. I checked the peephole. There they were, Marcus, Mom, and Dad. I didn't open up. So Dad started shouting from the hallway. This isn't how family handles things. That made me laugh out loud. I actually had to cover my mouth. Then came Mom's voice. Please, honey. We can't let this tear the family apart. And then Marcus. You're really gonna ruin my whole life over some paperwork? You're not perfect either, you know. That one lit the fuse. I opened the door. The 3 of them looked like they'd just been caught stealing from a church collection plate. None of them said anything right away. I just stood there, cold air from the hall brushing against my legs. And finally I spoke. No. You already destroyed the family. I'm just calling it what it is. Dad took a cautious step forward. Son, be reasonable. You want reasonable? I asked. Let's talk about what that looks like. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, and held it up. This is the recording of Marcus telling me not to come unless I'd done something useful. Want to hear it again? Their expressions all shifted at once. Faces dropped. Shoulders tensed. And this, I said, flipping to my email app, is the message from the bank confirming the forgery. This is evidence. It's admissible. Marcus looked like he just swallowed a fistful of gravel. He was sweating. Come men, we're brothers. I locked eyes with him. Brothers don't forge each other's names. Brothers don't drag one another into 6-figure messes and then act like it's just a simple misunderstanding. He started to say something, but I didn't let him. You're going to get in your car, I said, firm and clear. You're going to call the bank, tell them what happened, and begin the process of fixing it. You're going to get my name off that mortgage. And if I don't have a signed, notarized release form in my hands within 10 days, I'm going straight to the police. Mom let out a gasp. You wouldn't. He's your brother. Oh, I absolutely would, I replied, eyes steady. And I'll sleep like a baby after. You'll tear this family apart, she sobbed. I tilted my head a little and said, there's nothing left to tear. You just hate admitting that the pieces were already broken. Then I made my final move. I reached up to the door frame, peeled back the envelope I'd taped there earlier, and handed it to them. Inside was a certified legal notice from my attorney. We were suing Marcus. For damages. For emotional harm. For fraud. He made adult decisions, I said. Now he can face adult consequences. They stood there, completely frozen. Like someone had hit pause on a movie. I shut the door, turned the lock, and walked into the kitchen to make popcorn. That night? First time in years I didn't clench my jaw in my sleep. First time in years my phone stayed quiet. No daily texts from Mom filled with guilt. No voicemails from Dad preaching about family unity. No passive-aggressive emojis or misspelled excuses from Marcus. Just quiet. And let me tell you something, silence is addictive. At first, I kept expecting a blowback. Maybe the police would call. Maybe the bank would try to dance around it with paperwork and stall tactics. But none of that happened. What did happen? Marcus cracked. 5 days after I sent the formal legal notice, I got a phone call. But not from him. He didn't have the guts. It was his realtor. Apparently, Marcus had gone into panic mode and listed the house for sale. She asked, very politely, if I'd be willing to sign a release of interest to help the sale move faster. I told her sure, I'd be happy to do that, just as soon as Marcus sent over that notarized document removing me from the mortgage. Fair is fair. Within 24 hours, my inbox dinged with a PDF. It was notarized. A clean break. I was out. But the real win? That came a few days later. My dad walked into my office. No warning. No call. No message ahead of time. He just showed up like he still had that kind of access to my life. I was in the middle of a client meeting. My assistant tried to stop him, but he brushed past her and barged right in. Son, he said, we need to talk. My client blinked, caught off guard. I nodded. Let's take 5. Dad shut the door behind him and stood there for a second, scanning the room like he was seeing it for the first time. Like he was just now realizing I'd actually built something of my own. Didn't know you had all this set up, he muttered, eyeing the shelves. Looks professional. It is professional, I replied, not offering him a seat. He just stood there, fidgeting. Your mother's not doing well, he said. There was the emotional bait. She's upset, he continued. She thinks you've gone too far. We all do. I didn't say anything. Just let him keep digging. Marcus is talking about moving out of state, he added. Says you've turned everyone against him. I haven't said a word to anyone in the family, I said calmly. If they're pulling away from him, that's on him, not me. He finally sat down, slowly. He's still your brother. And he crossed a line, I said. Dad looked down. We raised you better than this. You used to be more forgiving. No, I said. I used to be a doormat. That's not the same thing. A long pause hung between us. Then he leaned forward again. She cried, you know, he said. Your mother. Real tears. I don't doubt that, I replied. It's probably hard for her to watch me finally stop playing the role she assigned me. He looked tired. Like all this had taken more out of him than he expected. You're angry, he said. I told him. Now I'm free. He stood up, slowly, like the weight of the truth was heavier than he thought it'd be. We were just trying to keep the family together. No, I said. You were trying to hold me together. So Marcus wouldn't have to carry anything. And then I said the part that had been lodged in my throat for years. I'm not your insurance policy. Not your backup plan. Not your second paycheck. I'm not your, in case of emergency, button. I'm your son. And you treated me like an asset. He didn't reply. Just stared at me like he was looking through glass. I'm not coming back, I said softly. I'm done playing the good son. He left without another word. And the moment the door closed behind him, something deep inside me finally exhaled. In the weeks that followed, my lawyer drafted and finalized a non-disparagement clause to stop Marcus from running his mouth online. His little pity post about being betrayed by blood disappeared overnight. I heard through the grapevine that he sold the house, but barely. The market had dipped, and he took a hit. Then the messages started rolling in. Cousin Elise texted, I had no idea what he did to you. If you ever want to grab coffee, I'd love to catch up. My aunt wrote, just know not all of us bought his story. I hope you're doing okay. Even my ex reached out, took guts to do what you did. I didn't know you had that in you. I didn't respond to most of them. But I smiled. Because that's what happens when you stop trying to be the villain in someone else's redemption arc and start writing your own story instead. I moved to a new apartment. Not far, still in the same city. But this place had windows that let in light. Clean walls that didn't feel like they came with history. I bought new furniture. Nothing borrowed. Nothing handed down with guilt or conditions. Not some gift with strings attached. All of it. And finally, I started sleeping through the night. I started eating better. Even my therapist said I looked lighter, like I was carrying less weight, inside and out. And here's the wildest part. I began mentoring a kid from the neighborhood. Smart kid. A little awkward. Maybe too eager to please, kind of reminded me of myself back then. One afternoon, after we'd finished tweaking his resume, he looked up and asked, "How'd you get so good at setting boundaries?" I laughed. 30 years of learning the hard way. But you want the real full-circle moment? Last week, I got a wedding invitation. Not from Marcus, of course. No way. It came from one of his ex-girlfriends, the woman he ghosted 3 years ago after she told him she was pregnant. Turns out the kid was his. Turns out she raised the baby on her own. She tracked me down on LinkedIn. Inside the envelope was a note. "You were always the decent one. Thank you for never treating people like tools. You probably don't remember, but when I stayed for dinner that night, you did the dishes while watching TV." That moment stuck with me. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. Just sat there holding the card and let a quiet kind of peace wash over me. Because here's the truth, I won. Not by getting even. Not by yelling or burning bridges. But by walking away while they still clutched the matches. I used to think being the good one was the goal. Keep your head down. Help out when asked. Don't complain. Don't question. Just keep giving until someone finally says thanks, or until you finally feel like you belong. That lie died the day I sent Marcus a single penny. Most of my life was carrying burdens I never chose, paying for mistakes I didn't make, soaking up blame like some emotional sponge for a family that never once asked if I was okay. And for what? Respect? A sense of belonging? I got none of that. What I got instead was a forged mortgage application, a holiday guilt trip, and a seat at a table where everyone knew I was being used, and said nothing. Not anymore. Not ever again. The first time I said no, even just once, something shifted. It wasn't just how they looked at me. It was how I started seeing myself. I stopped apologizing for setting limits. Stopped second-guessing my gut. Stopped trying to save people who'd leave me drowning the minute it got inconvenient. And something strange happened. The weight lifted. For real. I dropped 20 pounds in 3 months without even trying. My shoulders stopped aching. My jaw quit clenching in my sleep. Turns out carrying your whole family's dysfunction on your back is heavier than it looks. I started rebuilding. Not just my finances, but my life. The apartment? Modest, but peaceful. I picked out every single thing with care. No hand-me-downs. No furniture soaked in guilt. Nothing bought with blood money or strings attached. I even bought a small espresso machine because I like coffee, not because I needed to pinch pennies to cover someone else's bailout. I joined a boxing gym. Not to fight anybody, just to remember what it feels like to stand my ground. And slowly, the right people started showing up. My neighbor invited me over for dinner with his family. At first, I was awkward, waiting for a catch, some angle. But there wasn't one. Just good food and real laughter. One of my coworkers handed me a Christmas card and said, "You've been different lately. Lighter. Happier." I said, "Me too. Hope it sticks." As for my family, they went quiet for a while. Then the calls trickled back in. Mom's soft voice first. The one she uses when she's pretending nothing ever happened. She asked if I'd come to Easter brunch. I asked if Marcus would be there. "Of course," she said. I told her I wouldn't be coming. Then Dad called. Said he missed me. Said the house felt empty without me. I asked if he missed me or just the version of me who never said no. He hung up. Marcus never called. But word got around that he moved in with a friend after selling the house. He started a podcast about rebuilding your life after betrayal. The irony nearly killed me. Eventually, the calls stopped. And silence became a blessing. But here's the moment that stays with me, the real ending. It was a random Wednesday. Rain tapping on my balcony. I was reading when a letter slipped through my mail slot. No return address. I opened it. Inside was a single typed page. "You did what I never could. You said no. You walked away. You showed the rest of us it was possible. Thank you." No name. But I knew who it was. My cousin, maybe. My aunt. One of Marcus's exes. Someone still stuck in that toxic cycle. Watching me break free, and realizing they could too. I folded the letter carefully and slid it into the drawer where I keep reminders of who I used to be. Then I poured myself a drink. Not to celebrate. To remember. Because healing isn't about forgetting what they did. It's about not needing them to admit it anymore. Not begging for the love that should have been unconditional. It's about becoming the person you were always meant to be. Once you stop bleeding for everyone else. I used to think the worst thing that could happen was being cut off from my family. Now I know the worst thing would have been never cutting the cord. Now I live in truth. And that truth is simple. I'm not their wallet. I'm not theirs at all. I belong to me. And I'll never go back. Not for money. Not for peace. Not for guilt. I closed that chapter and didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I felt free.